stuff came at me.
I know, I'm just trying to hear you so I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
So, and I don't have a scanner, and I did not have access to the scanner here, so I just copied and pasted all of the PDFs that were sent to me.
So it looks like we don't have an electronic version of paper.
Right, what you have is Amy Stepson, she's an attorney at law, the resume and proof of insurance of her, and then Bridges Investigative Services. The city is in need of an internal investigation involving 4 employees in 3 departments. This is a confidential matter, and to protect the integrity of the investigation, no further information is available at this time. Attempts were made to get assistance from Pierce County Sheriff's Department and King County Sheriff's Department, both declined. This is an administrative matter, and we've been advised that this is an appropriate referral for an investigator, and that an investigation by law enforcement agency is not required by law. We've been working on getting private investigators with appropriate credentials and insurance for this investigation, and the information gathered is attached. Any additional information gathered before the meeting will be provided, but it was all provided before the meeting. And you should have a copy of that in the email. I don't know why it didn't make it, but to show that it was sent. And so we have Amy Stepson. There's a considerable hourly fee. The mayor had chosen to go with Bridges. Both have extensive expertise in the matter. Both show proof of insurance. And the mayor had chosen to go with Bridges for the cost savings.
So, okay, maybe I'm confused. So, you'd rather go with this one than the other one that was submitted, that we just...
No, this one, on this, there's 2. On this particular issue, there's 2 attached. Amy Stepson is a completely different investigator, and then there is Bridges Investigative Services.
I see on the Amy Stepson one, as the first paragraph starts to outline, and even the subject that the letter indicates, says whistleblower complaint.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if, and some of the dates in here, at least one of them, no, 2 of them, seem to coincide with the whistleblower complaint.
Right, because originally it was kind of, I'm sorry.
With the same ones that we just talked about. So are these different complaints?
They are.
Oh, okay.
The one, except for the ones that you noted, the whistleblowers in there, they were included because when we approached people, we were like, this is what we have, what do you specialize in, what can you do? And so she had been advised of the other whistleblowers, and that's why it's noted in there. She could handle them as well.
Since the items in the packet are public records, I'd like to request that the version of this that is in the public record, we should redact the name of the whistleblowers out of that first paragraph of the letter, because it identifies who the whistleblowers are. Just because, we've had complaints about that.
Well, and I know that the first one has been given authorization to release it, so but the other one I will redact.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Councilmember McMahon.
So I'm so focused on that first paragraph in the Stepson letter where it itemizes the complaint.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to separate out that it sounds like there's some overlap, but I think I heard that there's not a complete overlap with what Betty had presented and what's presented here. Are these all whistleblower complaints, or are there investigations that are not whistleblower related?
No, there are there are complaints listed that are not whistleblower, and that's why it's only requesting that one investigation on the team.
Okay.
Because the 2 investigators attached to this packet would only be contracted, one would be contracted just to do the investigation as stated, even though we got basically a quote from each of them.
Okay.
distracted?
No, that's all right, we're all distracted. So if I can,
Go ahead.
so I'm trying to, and I recognize we're all in a tough spot here to not be able to talk about, not compromise the integrity of the investigation. I don't know about the rest of the council, I'm totally unaware of the even the nature of investigations, and so it's difficult for me to kind of evaluate and consider approving a contract for an investigation that apparently, at least some of them are not whistleblower related. I'm wondering.
They're the HR issue that involves 4 employees in 3 different departments. That's the one we're asking for with this one.
Okay. So I wonder maybe if there's an allowance into the executive session law for us to talk, because I mean, the first question is, what's the need for an investigator? And it's hard to answer that without.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
I know, I was like, I can't say anything out loud.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I'm kind of at a loss.
You have to invite me in, and I can tell you if you're in executive session, because it's privileged information, you know, so I can, in an executive session, I can't write here, as you're aware. And
So, and I guess that's what I was
doing.
alluding to earlier, I know of one whistleblower complaint, I know the nature of none of the other ones,
Okay.
or what we're looking at and why we're doing any of this.
So can we, since we have the dates in front of us, it sounds like the ones Betty just presented would be for the first one mentioned, end of March, beginning of April, right?
Are we looking at Amy's thing?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I was like,
Sorry.
what? Yes.
Okay, so the other, the last.
And again, this is her interpretation of our conversation.
Okay.
So B is with Luce.
Okay, so this would be for C and D.
Right,
Because A is covered by what Betty talked about.
correct.
C and D are not covered by what's with Luce or what Betty talked about?
Correct.
So would there be?
Greater- I was gonna say, those were the, that was the investigation that we were hoping to get done by a, law enforcement agency. Right, both of them.
Go ahead, Councilmember Walker.
In Amy's packet, I don't remember, I just got it, see her rate. It's on page, 2 of 4 that didn't make our copy. If I remember correctly.
Sorry.
Because there is a, there's a whole,
Yeah, that page didn't make.
okay, because I sent you the whole packet, right?
Good.
And I'm looking for it, because I know what you're referring to, I did see it, and she gave us an estimate, an hourly rate, she broke it down like the others are, the travel rate, the mileage, and the hourly rate, and then she gave a basic broad lump sum of what it would cost to do all of them,
Okay.
just because she was wanting to do all of them, even though we told her that there were different agencies that had to do certain ones, so. At that time, we were still trying to get First County to do the investigation that we're asking for right now.
So what is her, just hourly rate?
I believe it's 180.
Okay.
It
So-
could be as much as 220, because I can't recall. It's between 180 and 220.
So I know that we were looking to have a law enforcement agency do it, that isn't required now. Is there a reason we don't go with her for all of them? Potentially $70 an hour, maybe 30. To go with A and B, and A
You know,
and C.
no, there's no reason, in fact, that's why we brought them all forward, because we could, you guys can choose to lump it all together. Her lump sum price seems pretty high, but it's because she was putting all 5 or 3 or whatever together, anything she does for us together. And so, again, it was, Betty had the responsibility by the statutes to deal with the ones on her desk, and I was helping the mayor collect investigators, so, for the other issue. So we could, depending on, you know, which resume you like best, or which contract, which rate, that's why we put them all forward. You could see what we were looking at. She is pretty far north, and so we were looking at more of a, the travel costs too with her.
But if she could eliminate the travel costs and do multiple interviews on the same day, that's.
Sure. Yeah, and she talked about that.
James, did you have something that allows for executive session?
No, national security? I mean, the closest thing that I found was, to receive and evaluate complaints or charges brought against a public officer or employee. But I think, frankly, it sounds like those charges have already been received, and at least partially evaluated to the point where the administration determined that private investigators needed. So, I mean, I feel at a loss that I'm not really comfortable moving forward without knowing what it is, but I also don't think that it doesn't look to me like there's an allowable executive session exception for this, at least that I'm finding, and we certainly don't want to air out confidential matters that might jeopardize the investigation. So I don't know how to make a decision on that.
Councilmember Jones?
Excuse me. Those copies of the latest investigator I had, I'd like to include this in the workshop.
They have those,
That's
Just
where
like the
we're
one
looking,
that's
isn't that what we're looking
it's
at?
the whole packet.
We already have this.
And here's your copy.
We have it already.
Have you got that?
Yeah, it's in here.
It's in here, show provided this,
Okay.
although it might have page 3 or 4.
That was on step one.
No,
This one
that's
here
definitely-
includes a quote I got today on the phone. Okay, this includes the quote I had today on the phone.
With this right here,
It's an updated copy.
not knowing what these 3 are under A, would that be potential litigation? That we can call executive session? We do not have a clue what those are.
Yeah, but the litigation allowance for executive sessions is to discuss it with our attorney, not just to discuss general things that we think we'll have to shoot about.
Well, a whistleblower isn't a lawsuit until there's
That's
retaliation.
true.
So,
I just have no clue what
I don't think we
in
can have
A,
one.
what 1, 2, and 3 are. I have no clue, so it's kind of hard to get an investigator when you don't know what's going on. Did you have a comment?
The only question I have is, Mayor Sun was leaning towards bridges, and I was curious as to the reason why. Mayor Sun, if you could explain why you were leaning towards the bridges versus Stephenson?
There you go.
Why were you considering bridges over the other investigator?
I'm not reconsidering, I'm just proposing it to the council so that the council can see that we have another investigator who in charge, who in charge instead of $250, $150 an hour, $45 an hour for transportation, 55 cents a mile. And he is, from what I can see and what I read and what I've talked to him, he is just as good as any other investigator. So if I am granted the choice of selecting investigator for your consent, I would just like to know that we also have an equal experience, capability investigator for $150 an hour. And I think he can get the job done.
May I ask how you found out about these people, or how you found this person? This company?
Well, that person, the reason why, how I found him, I didn't find him. He was watching the television, and he called up and came down with his package.
Councilmember McMahon?
How did we find out about the assessment?
a referral
Betty, you want
from
to?
a contact from, the attorney's office. That Amy Stepson was a referral from Perkins that he received from a referral from another agent, another attorney firm.
Any other comments from council, questions? Councilmember
So
Jones?
what we have is an attorney, Amy Stephens, and versus a private investigator.
Correct.
And we're talking again, considerations of legality, legal investigations.
Right, this would not be the whistleblower. This would be the other issue.
That's still legal issues.
I don't know that. I
And,
don't have the skill set to tell you that. I don't know how it works.
Yeah, I would say her writings do indicate experience in the areas related to what I know of those other complaints that's been revealed in other filings and with other. So, from what I do know, she seems like the better fit than P.I.
And so is Betty.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I personally would be more comfortable with him.
Councilmember Smith?
So sorry, Gary, I've spoken a lot, Gary.
I would prefer to see one investigator come investigate rather than level, and then we get kind of settle and wires not get crossed up.
So I still go back to what is it, like what is it that we're investigating? I get the whistleblower complaints, I understand that process and that we have a duty to investigate those, that, and it's an awkward spot that we gotta find a way out. I'm just not comfortable, I agree, between an attorney and a private investigator, if we're gonna have somebody do an investigation, I think an attorney is the better place to do it. The question is, what is it? And I don't wanna get past that and just say, well, this one looks better than the other one, so let's just march on. I wanna be able to make an informed decision about what it is. I don't know how to do that.
I agree.
I don't know if we can.
We can say that it is the allegations of intimidation and harassment.
And then
Under C and D or A2 or C?
I don't know them better. No, A is not that.
so we have allegations of intimidation or harassment that law enforcement agencies have declined to pursue.
Declined to conduct the investigation.
Okay. Do we approach them as, we want you to conduct administrative investigation of
Yes.
it? Or here's a criminal complaint of harassment or intimidation?
Not criminal.
Okay.
Administrative completely.
And you don't qualify as whistleblower? I guess whistleblower is mostly if it's upstream, right?
There's very specific whistleblower. This involves employees. There's 3 different topics for whistleblower, and it's not. I don't know that it would fall under that. I know that that's not the intent here. It's to resolve the HR issues between the 3 departments.
If I remember enough of the details correctly, speaking together out of various minutes, this could be a whistleblower if the city failed to investigate it and they felt the need to report it outside the usual chain of command. But at the moment, it's going through the normal management chain, so it's not yet a whistleblower.
I know there was a bunch of email traffic on the topic of the insurance company, and I don't know if it was related to this or not. And
So did we all.
So I wonder if the way out to the dilemma that I'm having is, what is it, what are we investigating, and why are we investigating it? I wonder if the insurance company's a better out to that. Insurance companies aren't subject to the Public Meetings Act. We don't have to have executive sessions with them, but I think it's proper, and it sounds like we already have notified the insurance company of whatever the complaint has been.
This is not a complaint that's come through the insurance company.
So it sounds like maybe we could, and they in their professional judgment can evaluate whether or not it needs investigating, and can say, here's the kind of qualifications that you need, here's somebody we've worked with, how that.
The insurance that provides claim services is the policy that ended last year.
We're going to have that.
So, possible part of this complaint might extend back to that, but I think the main body of it is not. If we had a TPA in place, then yes, one of their claim services would be advice on how to manage, you know, something that's beyond.
It's not a claim yet.
Yes,
Yeah, it's not a claim,
so
it's not even.
It would be something where a risk
Right.
management advice, they would help you through the process, but it's not a claim.
It should, yeah, hopefully it doesn't get to that point.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Other questions, comments from council?
I agree with Derek. We can keep it with one organization. It's gonna save us money in travel.
Can't do it in time for tonight's meeting, but I think we could piece together out of past email traffic enough for you to know what this is all about.
Well, we can
Yeah,
converse.
yes, right.
You know, we can
Yes,
talk.
That's true. If we're not all
You know,
together, you can discuss
yeah,
and stay up and find out
because
what's out.
it's, yeah, it's not gonna be
Without
any more,
yeah.
exactly.
Go ahead, Councilmember McMahon.
I'm trying to
Well, I'm trying to understand all of this.
So,
Can I
on the idea of having just one investigator, particularly given I think we've got two different strata of issues here. We've got the whistleblower, which is a very formal, very serious, we've got to get that done. It sounds like, to me, I like the recommendation that Betty came with, that Austin Blade, clearly a known resource in that area, experienced, and it sounds like from all of their experience, they can do the job right. On this other maybe complaint, it is a complaint, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I can call it. On the other complaint part, it sounds like it's not yet risen to that, and while we may save in travel costs, there's a, $70 an hour difference there, and it sounds like it's more of an HR issue, and when I look at the steps in resume and professional background, there's clear, both with the Washington State Bar Association, the King County Bar Association, and others. There was another place I saw here where it sounds like this gal's area of expertise is in that HR workplace investigation for HR staff, workplace harassment. It sounds like this is right in her wheelhouse. So
It might be in the other attorneys that Betty brought forward as well. They might, because they're a group of attorneys, they might have an employment law. She would know before I would, because I don't know that law firm.
That's how come King County Prosecutor's Office said it would need for investigations regarding personnel.
Well, that's what I'm kind of hearing. I'm hearing two different things, that we want one person doing all of it. The law firm is capable of doing A and B, and now Betty is saying that the law firm would also be capable of doing A, B, C, and D.
She's not looking at Amy Stetson's page. She doesn't know the A, B, C, and D thing.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so the law firm would be capable of doing the two, A and B, the whistleblower complaints, and then C and D are the other complaints, the intimidation and harassment that they want an investigator for.
I can ask them, but I did not bring that up to them at all.
So it sounds to me like it's council's pleasure to have one firm handle everything.
Sure.
As long as that, they have
They can-
specialized people.
Right, right. Councilmember Jones?
Maybe we ask to have staff present on Monday, Ogden and Steffen's consideration of a complete package investigation and the costs associated, projected costs with their rates. And then we can decide between the two firms which one we want to move forward with. That sound,
That sounds pretty
that's something
reasonable
that
to me.
staff could, I think it's just a phone call and them to send in the information to.
Sure.